You're listening to episode 1 of the 808s and Joysticks podcast.
Beautiful Joe!
Welcome to the first official episode of 808s and Joysticks, the show that bridges the gap between games and music seasoned with pop culture. I'm Tairell, and joining me today as always is Tom.
There's been a lot of gaming news this week, so this show is going to be top heavy on gaming with discussions covering music, film and TV later on. Some of the biggest news coming out of gaming this week is FarCry 5 coming on March 27th. And the new DLC is actually something that we're both quite interested in. The new DLC will add zombies, Martian spiders, and a time-traveling trip to Vietnam, which is something quite interesting, as well as Far Cry 3 Classic, and obviously that possible Blood Dragon link, a game that I know Tyrell very much liked, and I did too.
Yeah. Blood Dragon was it was a really good game. I actually got it for free on PlayStation Plus when they were actually giving out good games, and it's a really good game. I'm surprised Ubisoft didn't try and make that into more of like a permanent standing within the Far Cry franchise. But I think it's good that we will get to relive it somehow through Far Cry 5 and the classic edition of Far Cry 3 as well was a little bit of a shock. I didn't see that coming at all. Do you think that's going to be like a new recent trend now, within the industry, to release remasters apart as a season pass? What do you think, Tom?
Well, to be honest, I'm hoping that it would be a trend because, in my opinion, Far Cry 3 is probably the strongest the series has ever been. Story-wise, it was the best Far Cry game I've played. I played 4. 4 was good. It added a few more mechanics, a few different features to the game, and I think it added nicely on top of it. But 3 just sort of had that raw story to it, and I think it got the right balance. But with 5 now adding co-op all the way through the whole campaign, I think that's also going to be an interesting aspect, especially with the whole cult thing going on and being able to build a sort of squad, it says. I think it's definitely going to be something that is different for the Far Cry franchise, but it's something that I think will benefit the game long term. But moving back on to Far Cry 3 and actually having that, having people remaster games that were good from a series, I definitely do like the opinion of that, and I want to see that going forward in the industry to happen quite a lot. I don't know if there's any games that you think, would probably deserve a good remaster from a series and maybe be brought up to date now. But I definitely think.
I'm not quite sure about what games I would like to see a remaster, and especially within a season pass. It's because it's a bit weird because Far Cry 3 is not necessarily like an old game. It is in terms of what generation it in, because it was a PS3 game. And I'm just not quite sure if I want remasters of games that are basically new. We don't really need to see remasters of them, but I guess it's kind of nice in a sense to play these games on a more current console. But with how Xbox is going and how they've done this whole new Xbox Games Pass thing, where now you can play old games already without having to get a season pass, you can just buy like a Netflix subscription fee type. I just don't see the point of, buying Far Cry 3 again. Obviously, Sony doesn't have that, where they're bringing back PS3 games only with PlayStation Now, and it doesn't work as well as Xbox's Games Pass. So, I don't know, it's going to be there for certain people, newer fans of the series. They may have never played Far Cry 3. I've actually never played Far Cry 3. I've only played Blood Dragon and I've played Far Cry 4. Because if you remember, you could go co-op on it for free on PlayStation, if you remember, with the whole share play thing. So that's the only time I played Far Cry 4 as well. And I'm really interested if Blood Dragon is about to make a return, because that is probably one of my favorite games of the last generation. Even though it was only a spin-off, like side game, I really wanted it to become something more. And so hopefully this is, like a little test run to see if the Blood Dragon franchise has got enough fans in order to warrant a full game based on that universe. But I'm quite interested.
The interesting thing here is that you said Blood Dragon was sort of like its own thing, away from Far Cry 3. And these 3 DLCs that have been announced for the Season Pass are all extremely different from the base Far Cry 5 game. So obviously Dead Living Zombies is the first one that was announced. That's got nothing to do with the whole cult in Montana extremism stuff that's happening in Far Cry 5. So it's obviously going to be like its own sort of different experience with the same mechanics from the game, which I think is interesting. And then you have Lost on Mars as well, which is, again, set in a completely different planet, but is somehow DLC for this game set in Montana. And then the one that links in with Blood Dragon is the Vietnam one. So it's called Hours of Darkness, and it's about fighting in the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong. But I think it was back in 2014, I've got it up here, the Blood Dragon director, I believe, Dean Evans, said the future is coming on April 19th. This was on April Fool's Day, by the way. Blood Dragon LP for Record Store Day. And then there's a photo of him holding a Blood Dragon LP. So, it says Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, nice LP. But then the actual screensaver on his screen in the background says Blood Dragon 3, Vietnam War 2. So it's a bit of a hit and miss link, but a lot of people are thinking that this Vietnam thing or the Mars thing could be a link to Blood Dragon coming back into the Far Cry series. And I think this is the first time since 3 they've actually brought out standalone sort of DLC for the game.
Yeah, because I don't think Far Cry 4 had any standalone expansion, did it? Not that I can think of anyway off the top of my head. But what I was also thinking as well is, would this game really be in development for 4 years? This is quite odd, in my opinion, that they would take so long to release something of the Blood Dragon universe, even though that was teased so far back as 2014. So I don't know. I'm in two minds whether this is like a true link and they have been working on this for a while, or whether that Ubisoft have just decided like we want to see where this franchise can go potentially, and see if there's enough fan base for us to, create a Blood Dragon game or in the same universe as Blood Dragon.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. But obviously then there's the link again of the Far Cry 3 Classic Edition being included in the Season Pass, which is, like you said, you can buy Far Cry 3 remastered standalone. You can buy the Classic Edition standalone, but it comes to the Season Pass a month earlier than the standalone. And
okay.
I mean, it's nice they're including this remastered game in the Season Pass, but what comes in the Classic Edition? Does Blood Dragon come in the Classic Edition? I haven't really looked into it. I'm just sort of spitballing now, but it's weird how it's the first time they've done this standalone-esque DLC since Far Cry 3, and they include Far Cry 3 in it as well. And it's got a Vietnam link. I mean, there's a lot of stuff sort of going on where it's being mashed together, and it may not be what everyone's hoping for. But at the end of the day, I think I'm really excited to see wherever this game goes.
I'm looking at the footage of the remastered version, and it doesn't even look like anything's been really remastered. I would say it's more of a re-release because I don't see anything that's updated as far as like the gameplay or like, you know, it just doesn't look very updated. Like the textures have not been redone, and as I said, that's because it's a modern game. It's very new, so they wouldn't really need to touch the textures or, you know, or upgrade the graphic quality or anything like that. They wouldn't need to do that because of how recent the game is. So I don't know. It's just, you know, everyone's got their own preferences, and, you know, some people would really enjoy this and some people won't. And if you've got the season pass, then, well, that's a good bonus to have anyway, because you're getting 3 standalones and a whole classic Far Cry 3 game. So, you know, we'll see. As far as I know, I don't think Blood Dragon is included with the classic while looking at the announcement trailer, but who knows? Ubisoft might decide to throw it in there as like a little Easter egg secret, like you can unlock it or whatever. But that is purely speculation.
Yeah, so Polygon have actually reached out to Ubisoft, and there's been no details released on what's been changed in Far Cry 3 Classic. It's just described as an update to a classic open world adventure game, but there's no real details that have been included as to what's included in it. So I think that's where the speculation really sort of stems from.
Okay, fine. Well, we're transitioning into another topic on the case of Metal Gear Solid Survive. Well, can't even call it Metal Gear Solid Survive. I mean Metal Gear Survive performing very poorly in the UK and Japanese territories, which are 2 major territories for the franchise. And obviously this just spells trouble for Konami as a whole. Like, you know, the Metal Gear franchise, it shouldn't have been touched after Kojima left, and they decided to turn it into a loot box filled, just a really run-of-the-mill average zombie survival game. And to see the Metal Gear series turn into this is really sad, because it's one of my favorite series. And they just know they've gone wrong, and I just want to know, where will Konami go from here, seeing as their first week sales in Japan was 31,359. That's how many sales they did first week, compared to Monster Hunter's 4th week sales, which were 53,982 copies sold. So you've got a game that's been out for nearly a month, which has been done with care and love, and no loot boxes and nothing crazy, no having to buy save slots for $10, and you know, just a real game where you can, all you do is just be with your friends and you just grind out and fight monsters. Instead, it's struggling against a game that is been out for a month, and it just goes to show that the franchise should just be left to rest now. Metal Gear Solid 5 should have been the last, and it just goes to show what Konami is about now. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, like you said, I found out. Yeah, I've obviously known about the game for a long time. We've spoke about it before, and it never looked overly amazing. Held out hope that there may be something to it, but they never really looked like it was going to be like a AAA game of the year sort of thing. But the fact that they're selling these save files, save slots for like $10 each, I think it's absolutely extraordinary that they've decided to, number one, take a franchise, number two, use like pre-existing assets within the franchise and just change certain things. Like, it's meant to be this wasteland thing, but it looks more like sort of Afghanistan or something. And then to charge people on top of that to they bought a game for like $50 and then say to them like, all right, now you want to save the game more than once, that's an extra $10, please. It's like you're paying for that with the game. You shouldn't have to then buy extra stuff to use the game. That's not what DLC is meant for. That's not what in-app purchases are meant for. They're meant to expand the experience. They're not meant to limit gameplay and then you have to unlock it. I think it's wrong that that's what the industry's turning into sort of now. And it's not really ideal.
Well, we said from the pilot anyway when we was talking about EA and the whole loot box trend that is occurring right now, and we should have known Konami was going to be in on something like this anyway. We just know from the way how they treat their staff and, you know, their terrible business practices, how they've been going on lately. You know, Metal Gear and PES are the two most notable franchises that are left right now. And I'm just thinking to myself, they're probably not going to touch the Metal Gear series again now. And they might try and make remasters, because I know that they have the resources there to remaster every game into the Fox engine, because they've made very high quality cutscenes for their pachinko machines. And pachinko, for everyone that don't know, is Japanese gambling machines, and that's what they're doing now. They're basically going into the Japanese gambling market and making their franchises into gambling machines, which I just think is just disgusting.
Well, they remastered, was it Solid Snake, Metal Gear 3?
No, they remastered Metal Gear Solid 3, the final fight when he fights against the boss. They remastered that whole fight in the Fox engine, and they used it for the pachinko machines.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Like, exactly, it's just laughable. Like,
I still remember when it was like the first time we saw that, and it's like a trailer that they released, and it gets you excited because you think, oh, okay, this is going to be something that, you know, they're actually putting care into this, and they're going back and looking at revisiting like really old games and updating them to look, you know, basically the best they've ever looked on current gen consoles, which in my opinion are amazing sort of, you know, ways to portray something now compared to what you would have in like a PS1 or PS2. But like you said, they then went and put that in a pachinko machine as a cutscene. And it's like you've put someone through all that work just for it to be wasted, really.
Yeah, I totally understand. And obviously, we're big fans of the series, and it was just sad. I just feel sorry for the fans. I feel sorry for Kojima, Yoji Shinkawa, you know, all the people who created this franchise, and to see it just being basically just turned into a gambling machine. It just must be disheartening. Like, you do your life's work, and that's what it's been turned into, all because a company owns you. That's why I'm happy that Kojima has gone on now to go to Kojima Productions, and he's free to create whatever he likes. And you know, Konami's kicking themselves looking at that Death Stranding gameplay and just thinking, wow, if we just let this man do what he wanted to do, we could have had this, or we could have had Silent Hills, which was on track to be probably one of the greatest horror games ever.
Well, if you look back when Metal Gear Solid, when Ground Zeroes come out before Phantom Pain, they were on track there. They had PES coming out, making its comeback. They had Metal Gear 5 coming out with the prequel, obviously. They had PT Silent Hills in the works to come out, you know, with Norman Reedus in that, and they had like 3 massive AAA games there on the horizon to release, and then in the space of 2 or 3 years, they've chucked that all away, somehow made this game, and basically lost like everything that they've worked for and people that they've attracted to the company over how many years. And I don't understand why they're doing it. It doesn't make any sense money-wise either, because they can't be earning money off making bad games.
See, but that's when you'll be surprised, because Konami actually own a lot of things. They don't just do games. They actually do a lot of other things like sports and life. They have gyms. They have a real estate. So them as a company are not losing money. And their revenue and everything is actually on the up right now, because they are basically investing in the right areas. They're investing in gambling and, you know, things that are going to be a sustainable, you know, income for them as a business. But they shouldn't forget their humble beginnings of where they used to make their money, and just making good games for like fans that want them. Like, I just don't know why they would just start to switch and decide to start making pachinko machines out of amazing franchises. And it's just really sad to see, really. We're probably never ever going to get some of these games again for like Castlevania, Silent Hill, Contra, things like that. They're just not going to be made the same way anymore. We're just going to get these loot box filled, really crap, bloat games. Like, they're just filled with just nothing. Like, they're just filled with a lot of just emptiness. Just like I saw that Metal Gear Solid 5, I just know it wasn't Kojima's fault, but the game was empty. Like, it felt unfinished. Like, there was things that were needed to be added in there. But,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Konami was rushing. Yeah, I know they were rushing him, and he was probably just thinking, I'm just going to get this done as fast as I can and just get out of there. Like, and I don't blame him, to be honest. But
it also goes back to the point that we mentioned earlier, where they've built this survival game on a pre-existing franchise that realistically has nothing to do with these portals and zombies and shit that's been thrown into it. And then they're charging people for save slots. And no doubt if they could add more and charge people for more, they would. And it leads into the whole gambling thing as well, where they're relating their gaming to gambling. But it's something that the ESRB have now picked up on in America, and they're now saying that they're going to label games with in-game purchases or loot box labels to display that before buying a game on the box, it says you may have to, there's the chance to purchase additional content for this game within the game. So it's another thing that's pushing sort of kids and, parents more, pushing parents away from buying these things for their kids to play and enjoy and experience, because greedy companies are realistically just looking to earn as much money as they can off vulnerable people who just want to, in a way, it's like cheating. They just want to pay more money to get better at the game and feel better about themselves at being good at the game. And it's really not how gaming was meant to be. Like, I remember when I was younger, and you would have been the same, when we were younger, we didn't have all this in-app purchase stuff. We used to just, if you wanted to cheat on a game, you had cheat codes. You had stuff where you could go in and you could edit, say, the generated files, or you could edit a text file to do something. You can get mods, and even mods now you have to pay for and stuff. And it's all turned into like a monetized business where companies don't include cheat codes anymore as like a sort of extra for the game. They'll say, "Oh, you want this cheat code? Okay, well, give us £5 or $5, and then you can have like this ability in the game."
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a long time coming, and honestly, we've got nothing but ourselves as the players to blame. Like, we allowed it to get to this far. We thought, this is not going to get that far. It's going to be fine. You got people that are buying FIFA points and all sorts of stuff, and just thought, it's not going to get this far. And the next thing you know, we've got whole games being locked behind paywalls, basically. Like, how did we get to this point in the industry where parts of games and characters are locked behind a system that is rigged against you? It's just really terrible. And I know people even bring up the whole, it's just cosmetics. Yeah, I know it is just cosmetics, but sometimes that just cosmetics proves to just be just as much as a problem. As in, like, in Overwatch, you can get the special skins, the limited edition skins at the time, and people grind so hard to get them, or you could just buy so many loot boxes in order to try and purchase them. Like, even if it is just cosmetics, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not destructive, because people are still going to lose money out of it, and that's not even helping them get further in the game. That's just to get skin or something. And people are spending so much money, and the rate and the odds against you are so low. You just got to think to yourself, is it even worth it? But to some players, it is. And those are the players that they like to call whales, because they will spend so much money, but there's such a small demographic of them. But that small demographic of people that will always spend money constantly until they've got no more money will fund whatever game publisher or whatever it is that needs to have that money. And I think it's just really terrible, and I'm glad that the ESRB is stepping in to do something, even though I think it's more of a little bit late, because they were trying to defend loot boxes at one point, but now they're coming in to try and say, oh, we're going to do something about it. But I feel like it's more for PR, because people are they can see that not even just gamers now everyday average, casual gamers and people's parents and, everyone kind of knows a little bit about loot boxes, even if it's the average person, because now it's hit mainstream news, whereas before only really gamers were internally complaining about DLC and season passes and stuff like that. But now that it's hit a major market, such as the Star Wars franchise, which is owned by Disney can't have that happening on their hands. They know for a fact that Disney are all for the kids. That's what they are mainly aimed for. And if parents start getting up in arms about their games, then Disney are going to lose money, and they can't lose the money because, the kids, that's their cash cow. They're always going to get money from kids going to see films and wanting to play Star Wars games, and parents buying them the stuff for them. When the parents find out that their kids are spending hundreds of pounds or dollars or whatever on loot boxes, which is basically glorified gambling, how is that going to look?
Yeah.
And that's what it all comes up to. It all comes up to business and who's bigger than who, and and how they can come to an understanding of what's gambling and what isn't. And I'm really glad that finally something's getting sorted out about it.
Yeah. So I just want to mention a few things that you've just said. Then, I personally, I don't have such a grievance against in-app purchases and loot boxes and stuff. I just feel it's the implementation that can be wrong. Like you said with Overwatch, for an example, cosmetic-wise, if it's something cosmetic, then it doesn't affect the gameplay. It doesn't lock a bit of the game away for you that you have to pay for, and that's fine, because games have always been like that. You can always buy extra little things if you needed to. Even back in the 90s, the early 2000s, when you had disc games on PC, you could buy expansion packs, which you would then install.
Yeah, but expansions and cosmetics, they're two different things. I feel like if you bought an expansion, that's so much more substantial than a skin.
But it's like The Sims then. I'll say this, I know it's an EA game, but The Sims have been doing it since The Sims started. I think it was The Sims 2 that bought in stuff packs and stuff, where they basically just bought in a few extra items that were the same but looked a bit different, and that's they charge £15, £20 for that. And yeah, I don't agree with it, but you don't have to buy it. It doesn't affect your gameplay, and I think that's okay, because if you want to go and buy it, and that's the game that you really like to play, then fine, you can go and buy that. But if you don't want to buy it, then there's no one forcing you to buy it. Whereas the problem that EA had with Star Wars Battlefront 2 was that they said, right, if you really want these top tier things, you're going to have to buy them, basically. They locked you out of a part of the game, which is wrong, because the part of that game has been developed, it's been created, it's there, but you can't access it unless you pay extra of what you've already bought the game for, which is right. But saying from that, I've got some not statistics, but some numbers in front of me about sort of in-app purchases and what it means to the industry at the moment. So for Electronic Arts, EA, Ultimate Team modes across EA Sports franchises, that accounted for $800 million of annual revenue of last year, which is a lot of money just from sort of Ultimate Team modes, buying coins and packs. But
yeah, that is.
But it leads to the fact that you can still play Ultimate Team modes on their sports franchises without buying stuff. You may have to grind a bit harder and work a bit more, but it's still possible. And, you know, they've brought in a few different things recently that have helped people to actually, you know, if they're good at the game and they work hard at it and they don't have to purchase stuff, then they can get rewarded for it. And I think that's fine because it means more people are playing their games. But as well as that, Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of, say, Grand Theft Auto, NBA 2K, microtransactions are now taking up more than 40% of their reported revenue. So that's nearly half the whole company's revenue is in microtransactions. I mean,
but see, that's like, Take-Two, they've been sneaky from a long time. Like, everyone was always, remember the whole bullshit thing with the heist in GTA. Like, how long was everyone waiting for that? And then like GTA Online just like took off, and now it's just sustainable, like on its own. And like, I feel like Take-Two, they just know that like GTA Online is going to be, you know, that's going to just be something forever now, like until the next GTA comes out. And then they're either link that you'll be able to bring your character over, or it'll be a whole new online platform for you to play on. But yeah, it's the whole, you know, the live service thing that people are trying to do now. That's the next like big thing where everyone thinks it's innocent at first, but then when you come to realize it's a live service, when they turn them servers off, everything that you brought is gone.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like what we were going to discuss this last week. We didn't have time, but just quickly go over it. Ubisoft told investors last week that annual launches of video games are no longer a focus for them, and their main focus now is producing games with long-term engagement and systems that monetize that are games that have sort of microtransactions in them that are live. So, you know, if someone has a game with long-term engagement, you can easily put a system in there that monetizes how they go about playing that game.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely do that. And Ubisoft, I understand what they mean, because they've made a great amount of profit off Rainbow Six Siege, and also The Division is made a comeback as well. Like, remember when everyone was saying that The Division was basically dead? It's going to be a dead game because of how they dealt with, I think it's called the Dark Zone, something like that. That was supposed to be like their kind of like raid type mode that they had, but then now they've revamped it, and apparently a lot of people are playing The Division, and a lot of people are playing Rainbow Six Siege, and those are pretty much old games. I'm not quite sure.
I think it's some research.
When did The Division come out?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure.
The Division came out in 2016, so that's been going on for 2 years now. And then Rainbow Six Siege has been around, I think it's
around the same time,
if I'm right.
You have Ghost Recon as well. Just not forgetting that game.
Oh, 2015 is Rainbow Six Siege. So that game has lasted quite a long time. So you got to think to yourself, if that's what Ubisoft are going to focus on now, they might have the formula that is good enough to do that. So I guess we're just going to have to see what kind of games they're going to try and come out with, because I know everyone's trying to recreate Destiny now, even though Destiny hasn't worked twice. Like, it did work, but the players got bored and they just didn't make enough content for the players.
I don't think you can say Destiny didn't work, but I get what you're sort of going at with that. But then moving on to sort of annual releases of video games that Ubisoft have said they no longer want to do anymore. DICE are still looking at annual releases by the looks of it, because Battlefield, the annual Battlefield that comes out now, rumored to be Battlefield 5 now, or Battlefield V, however they want to call it. That's rumored to be set in World War II, just like COD World War II that came out recently, and that didn't have many good reviews. I mean, people liked it and people didn't like it, but I don't think it got the critical acclaim that they were expecting it to be, sort of this reboot of the COD franchise. So what do you think Battlefield 5 going in that direction now? Because they had Battlefield 1 that changed completely and went to this whole World War One aspect to then go into World War Two. Do you reckon they're going to build back up from the ground and sort of go from World War Two to modern warfare again in the future or something like that, like COD did?
Well, according to this leak report from on VG 24/7, it said apparently that this choice of era was decided on some years ago. So this means that DICE took a look at the current situation that's going on in the modern shooting genre and just thought to themselves that, we're going to take a break from the modern shooter. And the plan was to first release World War One, Battlefield, and then follow it up with a World War II game, just in case the World War One game wasn't well received. Obviously, Battlefield 1 was very well received and become the series is, one of the best selling entries out of all the Battlefields. So I don't really know if this was planned or if they're just trying to cover their own back and just be like, yeah, we planned to do World War II this whole time. But we know for a fact that, COD and Battlefield, they're always going, at each other. They're always trying to one-up each other. So we know that COD did World War II as a response to Battlefield 1, and then obviously now Battlefield, they're going with the trend of doing an old shooter, and we're hearing that I think Call of Duty is going to be a Black Ops 4 they're going to do this time?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really looked into much of it.
Yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 arriving with BO2 or Modern Warfare 2 remaster.
Okay, so more remasters coming.
So that's that information apparently just came out recently about it coming, and I'm probably thinking it's going to be, if they're going to do it right, it's going to have to be a Modern Warfare 2 remaster, and I would definitely want to pick that up because that was one of my favorite COD. I think that's one of everyone's favorite COD. It's either Modern Warfare 1 or Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, well, I don't play
World of War.
I don't really play that many shooters, but the Modern Warfare games are games that I played because they're very, very good to play at the time, and even now. But they're some of my favorite shooting games, I'd say.
It's just popular, innit? It's just good to play with your friends after school and stuff like that. I just got good memories of playing Modern Warfare 2 after school, and just chilling, talking with your friends and voice chat and whatever.
Does nostalgia hold too much over those games that COD can't really get away from that now? And maybe that's something Battlefield don't have, because Battlefield, I think, not counting the Battlefield 1943 spin-off game or whatever it was, the only other mainline Battlefield game that was set in World War II, I think, was the first one, Battlefield 1942, which came out in 2002, so 16 years ago. So I think Battlefield have got that advantage where they can go in fresh to something like that, whereas COD they've been making games for a long time and sort of repeating over what they've worked on before. And
well, we know that COD are like running out of ideas, but still they have a constant fan base, and it's just one of those where like I just don't think like the fan base is going to dwindle. Like last game, it went back up. Well, I think the game before that was its most downvoted. It was one of the most downvoted videos on YouTube.
Yeah, that was.
Which Call of Duty?
That was when they had
again?
It had to be in space and everything, didn't it? I can't remember what it was. Was it Ghosts? No.
No,
Ghosts
that wasn't Ghost. Ghost was like that was the one when they announced that they've got
there's been
dogs.
way too many now that I've completely lost count. And
Was it Infinite Warfare that everyone hated? That was a one.
yeah, it was Infinite Warfare. That was the one that was in space.
Yeah,
So it
was Infinite Warfare because
it sort of lost me this whole. So it was Infinite Warfare. Well, it's World War II, then Infinite Warfare, then Black Ops 3, then Advanced Warfare, then Ghosts, going back all the way to 2013. That was. So there's no real pattern to what's happening with it, and I know they rotate around studios and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good idea, but trouble is you get varied experiences from playing those games, and to slap the same name on it and the same franchise and say, right, this is what you're getting from this. It's a Call of Duty game, but this is Infinite Warfare, and this plays completely different to World War II or Black Ops 2. And it's like, well, I want to play COD, the COD that I want to play. I don't want to play this game with the words Call of Duty written on it. And I think that's the trouble they're having, whereas Battlefield just stick to the same team. Call of Duty, it rotates too much, I think. I did like the idea when it first started, and they were doing good with it, but the trouble is if one of the studios doesn't meet the standards, then it changes the whole aspect of that franchise and the way it plays, and fans are attracted to one game and not attracted to another, and then people buy into it and buy out of it, and I think there's too many variables in that situation, and they need to dumb it down and start fresh.
Yes, exactly. I don't necessarily think dumb it down. I would say that they just need to go back to its core gameplay and just, they always say, yeah, we're going back to boots on the ground. Like, yeah, but they never go back to boots on the ground. It's usually fucking gravity running across walls and stuff. It's too much. Like, I tried to play Infinite Warfare and I was confused as to what was going on in the game. There was just too much shit. Like, I think it had robots in it as well, and I was just like, what? Like, this is too much. Like, I just want to shoot people. I just want to, like, why would the quick scope, no scope? Like, how much of those things?
I think it's definitely changed from what it used to be. But speaking about robots, a game that we're both looking forward to, I think you're looking forward to it as well. Detroit Becoming Human.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's from the creators of Heavy Rain, isn't it? Or along the same aspect,
Yeah, Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls,
so
the Ellen Page
that finally
game.
got a release date this week, and it's apparently launching on May 25th. So do you think it's going to launch on May 25th is the question, because obviously it's meant to be coming for a long time.
Well, I'm thinking they probably are going to go with the May 25th release date. If anything, if it doesn't release on that date, it will probably get pushed back, and then they'll announce the release date again at E3, because E3 is just around the corner from May. I think E3 is usually in June, if I'm correct. And I don't know, like, yeah, E3 is on It's from 12th of June to the 15th of June. So we can only imagine that they could easily push that back and announce something else in E3 if they wanted to. But this has been announced on the PlayStation blog by David Cage himself. So I'm assuming that this is going to be the actual release date. Rating is still pending on the game though, which is a little bit like, if the rating has not been done yet, this is a kind of cutting it close, to tell what the rating of the game is. It's probably going to be a mature or an 18 or maybe a 15, because due to some of the content that you have to deal with in that game, I can't see it being anything for, an early teenager. It'd be more, late teens to an
that's
adult.
what I think. I think this game's definitely edging on sort of the mature area of gaming. It definitely tackles some different issues that we haven't seen in gaming before. I think that's good, but at the same time, it could be a game that possibly attracts bad press, and with the whole sort of current violence against video games thing that's going on again, I'm not sure how it's going to be received coming on May 25th. So I think depending on what happens, we might see a delay because of something like that, to make sure the game doesn't go under the radar or gets too much backlash. But all in all, I'm very hopeful for this game. It's something that I definitely want to get into and play when it comes out, if I get the chance.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would like to play it, because Heavy Rain was a brilliant game, in my opinion. It was very, I feel like it was underrated for the time, because a lot of people didn't really understand the game, because it's more like a visual story. Like, you just play through a game and you have to do like quick time events, and you have to really analyze the situation as what's going on and figure out the story. And then I thought that was really great, and because you can have 4 different endings, but I hear with this game there's hundreds of things that hundreds of different outcomes, and there's a complex web of endings and directions to go into for the story of this game. So I'm really excited to see how it goes, and let's just see if it's going to be good. It could perform well, it could perform terribly, but I'm hoping there's a market for it so we can get more games like this, because I really enjoy them.
I don't want to talk too much about it because the game hasn't been released yet. We're only sort of going off what the blog is saying. So I think to talk about it in too much detail at the moment may sort of hype it up a little bit, ruin the experience when you jump into it. And I don't think that's something that we should do for a game, especially that's very sort of story-driven, story-based. I don't think you should take too many assumptions going into something like that.
Yeah, I would say go into it with an open mind, definitely.
And something we went into with an open mind the other night, moving on to sort of films and TV now. Atlanta Season 2, Atlanta Robin season premiered on Thursday night. Us being in the UK, had to watch it on Friday. But it was very different to the first season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it started off like, even without knowing how it started.
I think we should just point out
it started off
possible spoilers if you do want to watch it. We may mention something if you don't want to listen to Atlanta or us talking about Atlanta. Sort of skip forward 10-15 minutes or so, and we would have passed it by then.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It started off quite explosively. Like, I just thought it was going to be just a normal episode starting, and then it starts out with these 2 guys. They're just talking, they're just chilling, and one's trying to get some weed, and then the next thing you know, they're robbing this place, and it was just crazy how it just started off, like, just all guns blazing. I just feel like I didn't know it was going to be this serious. Like the tone was set, and that's just how it was. And it's because it's Robin season, and this season is set around the winter time, around Christmas time. So it's not concurrent with our months. It's set around that time, and in Atlanta, what happens? This is a quote from I think was it from Donald that said this, or was it from his brother Stephen? I think it was either one of them said in the interview. I think it was Stephen Glover said that their neighbor's car got robbed in Atlanta, and apparently that's just a thing because it's robbing season around that time because it's the holidays and people just basically just get robbed a lot. Like robbery just goes up a lot more in Atlanta at that time because everyone's trying to get money, everyone's trying to eat, everyone's trying to get stuff around that time, and it started off really explosive, and we don't know what happened, and we don't know what the direct connection could be to those two boys, but I'm thinking it was deliberate, so we may see these two guys again, or I don't know if they were just trying to tell us that it's Robin season. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I feel like it's linked onto something that's going to happen later on. There was too many unanswered questions during that little bit, and I think if they're not answered, it's going to be a little bit disappointing for me. But I personally don't think Donald Glover, Stephen Glover, the writers that are working on this show, I don't think they do things for the sake of doing it. I think they do it to be noticed. It's like last season when they had that invisible car they drove off in, and I spotted it in the background when I was watching it, and you just see him like float off while sitting down. And it's one of those things that you have to look at it and look a few times, work out sort of what's going on. It may not be completely obvious. It's not like Westworld, obviously, but it's definitely something that's a little bit different to other TV shows. Yeah, I think having I can't remember what his name is now. I'm trying to find out. The Atlanta director, I think, is Hiro Murray. A very, very good director who directed last season, and he manages to put everything across the way they want it to, I think. And Donald Glover recently did an interview on Stephen Colbert, and he did say that the experiences throughout the show, some of them are his own personal, some of them are like his brothers, his friends, and some of them are also from the writer's perspective as well. So it shows that, it is Robin season in Atlanta, but this stuff does actually happen, and I think he's trying to get across that point by calling it Robin season and opening on such a sort of bold statement saying this happens, this is real. If you're in Atlanta, stay safe, but also like be wary this stuff still happens. It's not just on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's trying to tell people that this is really real. Like this is society, and like people are literally robbing people this way. Like it was the situation was a fast food place that was selling drugs from the windows, and they knew that there was drugs in there. So then they decided to rob the place, all guns blazing, and the guy had a machine gun with him inside of the fast food place. The worker had a machine gun. I'm just shooting inside the place. And then in the end, I'm not sure if they shot someone, but a girl gets out of the car with all blood all over her.
Yeah, that was one of the unanswered questions that I was entirely sure of.
Yeah. These things here, I bet you the police wouldn't even tend to things like that because it's literally, it's probably a daily occurrence. So it's just, I agree with you. It was put there to say that, this type of stuff happens and, it's still happening and, people are poor and people are hungry and they want money for the holiday so they can buy gifts for their kids. And, you know, it all goes back to this, right, that, you know, Donald Glover character Ern has a child in the series, and it's all about him trying to provide for his family. But it's funny because he's homeless at the moment, and he's doing everything that he can to make sure his family is okay, being in Paperboy, his cousin. And even when he goes to visit his Uncle Willie, which is played by the immensely crazy and talented Cat Williams. And that whole segment there was just hilarious, how he is the alligator man. He had a real alligator inside the house. And he actually interned at an alligator like ranch, or like a little alligator like type place, to try and learn how to be more of like an alligator. I don't know why. I don't know if it like helped him get into character, but I find that really cool that he actually went off and did that on his own to prepare for a role, to say. Well, overall, I think it was a great episode. I can't wait until episode 2 comes out next week, and hopefully we just get to see more of like this quirky, weird side of the series now, because that's what I feel like he's going to try and go down with, especially that whole Florida man story. That what's his name's Darius. Darius comes up with.
Obviously, he's
and I actually
go on, continue. Yeah, obviously when his uncle as well walks into, when he's in his uncle's house, and his uncle's Darius walks in with him, and then his uncle goes, "I'm not Florida, man," and it's like it links that story together, showing that there's more to it than just Darius chatting shit. So yeah,
exactly. And funny you should say that, because I googled Florida man just to see
man's a real thing.
Is there some type of like? It is a real thing where basically, it's a meme that was created in like 2013, where like people basically said that whenever like a man, just a random man in Florida does anything, the headlines usually "Florida man does something." So it's just a name and a face to just men in Florida that just do really fucked up shit, really. Like, it could range from robbery to murder, like. So, and I like how they tried to like all pinhole it in like one image, but it's all different people collectively doing different crimes. So yeah, I thought that was a real cool flip on the whole Florida man, meme / story. Yeah, I think it was really interesting. I don't know if you got any other thoughts.
The only other thing that I say, well, personally enjoyed about the episode is the realness of Donald Glover's character Ern. The realness of Ern during that episode, throughout the episode. Obviously, last season it was left on that cliffhanger of him in the storage area, and then obviously now not having that, and we haven't seen his family yet. We've only seen him with his uncle, and it seems like he gets sort of bossed around a little bit and doesn't want to stand up for himself, but doesn't want to have any trouble, so he just gets on with it. I think it's something that
exactly,
you don't really see a lot on TV that much these days, which is something that's like this could be like a real person, or it's not sort of washed over with something like he's fine. Apart from the fact that I don't know where the hell he showers and shit, but he looks clean as fuck every time I see him, and he's got no house. But yeah, apart from that, no, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to episode 2 as well.
Yeah, definitely going to be probably going to win more awards. It's going to make him even more famous than he already is. he's just a man that he just does it all, doesn't he?
About him being more famous than he is. There's only 2 months left now until the solo film comes out that he's in. Obviously, we spoke about that last episode, but Disney have released their whole film schedule for all franchises now, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see what they've got lined up. So, Black Panther was the most recent film that Disney have released.
It was really. I went and watched it. Tom hasn't watched it yet, but it was really good, very good. I recommend it to anyone to go and watch. It's amazing, and it's smashed box offices, and it still is smashing it as well, which is an amazing thing. For obviously, it's an all black cast, and I'm very impressed and happy to see that Kendrick and everyone had a hand in creating the soundtrack, and Donald and Ludwig, who did the as I said last week, they worked on some of the scoring for it, and it was a really, really, really good film. But Black Panther was the most recent film, but then like the next upcoming ones, some of them are just Disney originals that I'm not quite sure what they are, like A Wrinkle in Time, and the next one's going to be Magic Camp, which I don't think we really care about them too. Don't know if you do, Tom, really, no, but I don't. I mean, the last sort of half of the year for Disney is looking quite impressive. You've got Avengers Infinity War, Solo, A Star Wars Story. Oh, yes.
The Incredibles 2 is coming out in June. Obviously, we spoke about the trailer for that last week. Ant-Man and the Wasp is coming out in July. Oh.
I don't really feel Ant-Man that much,
Disney Fairy Tale. I'm not sure what that is. I think that's probably been announced by now. But the one after that, I think, would be Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2. I think that's going to be...
Wait, you just skipped over what's called...
I want to talk about that in just a second after, because this is like what I'd call more CGI based rather than live action, which are some of the other ones. But Wreck-It Ralph, I think that's going to be interesting. It's called Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2. Weird name, weird way to display a name or a title of a film.
I feel like they were just trying to go for the whole... Remember when, like... I don't know, it's like a really weird connection, but the whole...
Yeah,
K breaks the internet. They're trying to go for that, weren't they? Yeah. They're trying to do the whole...
It's... not sure. I mean, the trailer looked all right this week. We saw a few different things in it. They've obviously got a few companies in there, like eBay and stuff, and it just looks like it's going to be more of sort of the first movie, but I don't think it's going to live up to the first movie, in my honest opinion. I don't think so, no, because
you don't think so?
It's not so much about games anymore. It's more about the internet and spreading out on the internet. And there's things like TripAdvisor, Expedia, stuff like that are in the thing, like YouTube. And I think it's going to be more about the internet in general, as the title suggests. Yeah, like internet culture, memes, stuff that they think is going to get more people to come watch it. Because obviously the last one was for gamers. This time it's like, well, we've done that already. We've got to do something else now. What does he fit into? Okay, well, we can make him into like an online game. But I don't think he's going to live up to what they actually set it out to be.
I want to know what's going to be like his, like what's going to be the villain, like what's going to be the thing that he has to like go against. That's the only thing that I'm trying to think. So it's probably going to be like some type of like internet virus or something.
I think the trailer did show something, but I don't want to focus too much on the trailer. You know? But like you said, the Mulan live action film, it's something that I would be interested in going to see, and I think it worked quite well. Mulan live action, because it was an original Disney animated film, but it's not animated to the degree that it can't turn into live action really easily. The only thing would be the dragon.
I'm hoping that. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm hoping that like they get like, I think it's called Mushu. I think the dragon's called. Yeah, who was he voiced by again? He was for someone really famous.
Yeah, it's Eddie Murphy as Mushu. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope they get the voice of Eddie Murphy.
I don't know if
again.
they've actually got a cast for the live action Mulan.
They do, because they've got this. Because remember, there was backlash because there wasn't going to choose Asian actors, were they? But then there was a lot of backlash, and then now they've decided to choose all Asian actors to portray Mulan, like in a new live action. I'm looking for Mulan.
They've changed the release date now anyway to 2019. So obviously this schedule that we're looking at hasn't been updated since.
Oh, okay.
No, but I mean that's coming out. You got Mary Poppins is coming out pretty soon. Captain Marvel is something that is interesting because, like we were saying last time, Marvel are looking to focus more on female leads now, and Captain Marvel plays into that perfectly.
Yeah, they are. And
then obviously we have the Lion King remake, which is what we were going to go on about. Donald Glover is also in the Lion King remake, voicing Simba. And you also have JJ McRae playing young Simba. He was also on Terrified, on Childish Gambino's album, Awaken My Love. And I think it's really nice to see that he's gone from coming out of nowhere on that album, working with Donald, to going on to be in this live-action Disney musical movie with him. I think it's probably been suggested, but
I'm going to send you a new updated list, which is the one that came out the other day. The other one was an older article, so I apologize. 1 second, I'm just adding it into the notes.
Yeah, there's
Can you see it?
Thing is, there's a lot of different things that are sort of happening with Disney now with the live action stuff. But like I was saying, I do really enjoy the fact that JJ McRae is going to be in the same film as Donald Glover. Obviously, Beyonce's in that as well. I think she's playing Nala. But
yeah,
it's going to be something different. I'm not sure how it's going to work, is the only thing, because the Jungle Book remake is live action. Obviously, everyone was live action, animated CGI animals, apart from Mowgli. But with the Lion King, it's all going to have to be CGI animated. And I'm not sure how that's going to work, if the film's going to look too fake or not, if it's going to be live action, because it's technically not going to be live action.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to see how they're going to do it. I have no idea how they're going to do it either. It was, when it was first announced, I was thinking they're going to have to do it like half and half. But there's no humans in Lion King, so I don't know what they're going to... I don't know if they're going to try and make it like the Lion King, the musical, like the live one. I don't know if they're going to try and do. I think
that's the interesting thing, that we're going to have to wait and see what's going to come from this. Is it going to be more like the musical, or is it going to be more like the animated film? You'd expect it to be more like the animated film, mainly for the fact that the Jungle Book was like the animated film. And, it plays well into being an animated film, turn into live action rather than the musical. But, again, we're going to have to see what works on the big screen. I do think it's a big risk for Disney, though, to release something like Lion King as a live action film. And I think that's maybe why they've got such a strong cast in place.
Yeah, they had to. They had to definitely have a strong cast in place in order to draw a crowd for one. But also, you know, you're gonna have fans of like The Lion King as children will definitely go and watch it, and it's almost like, yeah, they've got this big name cast, but they didn't need to. But I feel like Disney were almost like, well, we know that Lion King is so big that we need to have people that match how big the Lion King is. And, you know, the cast is very great. So we'll just have to see how that goes. I don't know who's next. 2019, 5th of May, the 24th of May is going to be episode 9.
I also think that's going to be delayed until Christmas. But the reason I don't feel like it's going to be delayed, I'm in two minds. I feel like it could be delayed, but maybe it won't be delayed because Frozen 2 is coming out in November, the end of November of 2019. And that's what I mean. I don't think they're going to put two big franchises out at the same time. I think they're going to split them up.
Well, they've changed the dates of a lot of things now. So obviously, you said that Mulan's been changed to March the 27th on 2020 now. That's where Mulan's been changed to. Also, we didn't say that the Christopher Robin project, which is obviously Winnie the Pooh, is going to be after Avengers.
Yeah,
it's going to be the next film after.
I may go and watch that. It depends on what it is. Disney's Christopher Robin is what it's called. I think I've seen the trailer for that actually. It's because it's like how the old Winnie the Pooh used to start. In the beginning, the live action, you had the old sort of worn out teddies at the side and him there in his room. But again, if it's live action, I'm not sure where they're going to go with it. But I think, to be honest, now we should probably move on because there's a lot that we could sit and talk about here about Disney releases, but it's a lot of sort of going over the same few things every now. So
yeah, I mean,
we're sort of running out of time. We've got, say, just under 20 minutes left, so we can either go for sort of talking about Netflix going full steam with the anime, which is something we had planned, and we could save that till next week. But then we also could possibly move on to music.
We could just do a little talk on Netflix. Obviously, we haven't got that much to talk about in the music section this week anyway. But we can talk about Netflix. They're going real full steam ahead with anime at the moment, and I think it's rightfully so because the trend of anime right now is very, very high. Like, a lot of people are now becoming more hip to watching anime, and it is due to the streaming service Netflix. People just stumble upon it and they didn't know that, you know, an animation could be not just for kids. You know, it can be something that's more mature, you know, something that's more mature content. And obviously we have mature cartoons in the Western, like, you know, Western cartoons that are more mature, but they're not necessarily, you know, having the same type of I wouldn't say feeling, but like, and I don't know. It's just a really good time for the anime industry, and hopefully they do it with care and attention, and they don't cut corners and make sure that, you know, it's animated great. And seeing as 30 shows and movies are due to happen this year alone, and they've set up deals with production IG and Bones, which is two of the greatest anime production companies right now, and they were behind Ghost in the Shell and My Hero Academia. Ghost in the Shell being a very famous and important piece of Japanese animation from probably the last few decades. Is very important, and My Hero Academia is being held as the new Naruto by some fans. That's arguable, but I would say that it's very, very much the new, big shonen anime, and everyone loves it. I love My Hero Academia, and it's a great series. So hopefully this is just this should just grow the anime community, and everyone can be more comfortable with talking about anime, because I feel like it's still got some type of I
think it's good that someone like Netflix has picked this stuff up, because like you said, the stigma around anime in a whole, it's got that you said stigma, but I think it's got that culture sort of referred to. So when people think of anime, they think of the culture that surrounds it, and it's not necessarily that's what people who watch anime are like. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you'd be surprised at the people who do watch anime. But it's good that someone like Netflix has picked it up, and even people like Jaden Smith's voice and his character in his anime on Netflix. I don't really want to name drop it because it's not that good, but it shows that people are moving forward in a direction that's trying to give this out to the larger world and show them that you can watch a cartoon and be over the age of 13 and not get hated for it because it's got dark themes to it. And so something like the recent film, The Boy and the Beast. It's not really recent now, but it's less than a few years old. But I watched that film, and that's probably one of the best films, apart from Ghibli films, of anime that I've ever watched, and thought I've got something out of that from watching an animated thing. And you watch it with subtitles, and you have to pay attention, but it's a different way of watching things. And if people don't want to watch subtitled anime on Netflix, I'm 100% sure Netflix are going to double their anime that they're making, and it'll bring back this sort of resurgence of like the days where Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade were massive Western franchises for kids, but also people that grew up with that then aren't going to have a stigma around all this other stuff because it's focused on sexualizing women, because a lot of anime does do that. It doesn't mean you have to watch that anime though. You can watch other dark anime that's good. Stuff like Hunter x Hunter is something that we both watch, and that's a great anime. Not necessarily for kids. It's got that nostalgic feel to it, I think, but it's got a great story, and it's got the dark themes that really and the anime has compared to other TV shows that you maybe can't find.
Well, compared to like a live action TV show, it does invoke something different, doesn't it? Like within you, like it's not the same. Like, I don't know, like say for example, you're watching like Stranger Things or something like that. You feel different. You feel like it's nostalgic, and we never lived in the 80s, but it feels like we were there. So it's kind of like weird, but it's the same with like anime. Like you feel like you can be in that world, and games, and it's all forms of like media where like you feel like you are there. And even though talking about like all forms of media, music as well, that can also do the same thing for you. It can make you feel something, and exciting times, because Travis Scott tweeted out that he's apparently listened to The Weeknd's new album, and this is a quote from him: "Abel's new album is scary. It's like when I first heard him for the first time. Bug." Lots of exclamation marks. And That's really, really cool because a lot of people miss that trilogy Weeknd, you know, because he's a pop star now, like, and that's not me trying to diss the Weeknd because I'm a massive fan of him, and I even speak to like our other friends, and you know they're massive fans of the Weeknd, and you know he's gone pop now, but he did that for a reason. He said he wanted to go pop. He wanted to do something more in the vein of mainstream because he wanted to see what his reach was. And now he's got so big, he can kind of revert back to making whatever music he wants. So for me, hearing that, you know, he's making music like how he did back in the day is really exciting. And, you know, I can't wait to hear what kind of influences and, you know, what kind of sounds and, you know, what other things he's taken from his other albums. Because, yeah, I do enjoy Trilogy, but I also like some of his newer stuff as well, even though it's not as dark or gritty as, you know, we usually used to hearing him. Yeah, I just think it's really cool. And obviously, Damage, Travis must be on the album if he's hearing it. So I'm hoping it's going to be not feature filled, but like some good features.
Yeah, well, that's what I think.
And they're
that's what I think
well
his
well.
album before Starboy lacked
anyway?
was that it didn't have, in my opinion, good features for him. They weren't necessarily not good features as in the artists weren't good. It was just, in my opinion, they didn't fit with the style that he was trying to portray. And Trilogy is one of my favourite albums. I also enjoyed Starboy though, and Kissland. You know, Kissland had some good stuff on it.
Yeah, I didn't like.
That's the one that I was on
Is it
about.
Beauty Behind the Madness?
It seemed like he was
like
stuck in the middle between pop and where he'd come from. And I feel with Starboy, he made that transition.
Yeah, like, and even though like that's some of his biggest songs came from that album, like, you know, I Can't Feel My Face and, you know, Earned It and stuff like that. And, you know, what's that other song as well that he does from that album? The Hills. Those are some really big songs. And The Hills was really hard. Like, that was a really hard song. But it's just weird, isn't it? Like seeing like the transition, but I do like when he works with Daft Punk. Hopefully, he does some more songs with Daft Punk.
I'm hoping that he gets some features like that on the album. Really cool. Travis, Drake again, obviously. When he first started with Drake on The Crew, as a classic song, I feel like they should come back and something like that should be on this album. Travis as well being on there. You know, there's ways he can take it and he can go. But it's exciting to hear that he's doing something like that now.
Well, I liked when he works with Future as well. Like him and Future work well together. You wouldn't think they would, but they do. So yeah, it's exciting. Speaking of Future, he's on a new song with Beyonce and Jay-Z. It's DJ Khaled's new song. And it's trash. Bluntly, it's really trash. Like, I don't know why they decided to come out with this song. You know it's going to do numbers anyway because it's got Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Future on it. But sometimes I just feel like, does Khaled know? Yeah, but does Khaled know? Of course he does. Just mashing people together.
He's on like his 11th studio album or whatever he's on.
It just doesn't make sense. Father to a Sword?
Of course he knows.
Come on, man.
Picking people and mashing them together makes good stuff. Gosh, I mean, he's not going to make a solo song on his own, is he? That's not what he's there to do. Yeah.
What?
I mean, I'd pay for an album of that.
Song over like a hard Metro Boomin beat.
I would not pay for an album of that.
Bless. Assad.
Yeah. Apart from that, there's not really major releases this week, is there?
We don't really have it. There was a couple minor ones. There was ASAP Ant from the ASAP Mob. He's one of the more minor members. He released his Prelude tape. It was all right. It's pretty cool. Got some cool beats on there. Reggie Snow, his album. Tom hasn't listened to it yet, but I've listened to it and it's really good. A lot of influences from the Neptunes and Tyler, the Creator, on the album, in my opinion. And I took a listen to the new Tory Lanez album as well, and that was pretty interesting. I quite liked it, and he's improved vastly from his last album. So, but I think that's it, really. Music-wise, we haven't really mentioned anything. Oh, wait. Yeah, Stranger Things has got new cast members. Uma Thurman's daughter. And Lucas's little sister, Pariah Ferguson. She's now got a recurring role in there. So that's exciting. Hopefully Stranger Things comes back soon. I think it's an amazing show.
I think it's something we can discuss in more detail next time. So we've not got... we're sort of at the end of it now. We've run out of time, really, of what we can speak about in detail. But there's definitely... Stranger Things is one of our favourite shows, and it's something that we will speak about next time. And hopefully next time there's going to be some more music releases as well, because it's been a slow few weeks for stuff that we can't really talk about, apart from obviously that Weeknd tweet. But we'll hold out to see what comes from that. We'll hold out and see.
Yeah, I feel like something is, a major release is coming soon. Something is, because there's a lot of artists that have yet to drop. So we will see who's going to drop something.
Yeah, seems like we're done to me.
Yeah, I think we're about done here.
Closing thoughts.
So Tom, any closing thoughts?
Coming and listening to the first actual official podcast of 808s and Joysticks. Hopefully you enjoyed what we spoke about today. We're trying to improve weekly. We're seeing what's coming. We're preparing a little bit more now. I feel like, I felt like the show went good. Yeah. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything, but
yeah, I think it went really good as well.
I feel like it went well. Yeah. Until next time. Thanks for listening. Hope you come back and, check out all the social media and stuff that's linked on our pages.
Yeah, we're trying to become more active, have more user interaction, we want to hear from people, trying to grow our audience. And thanks for listening, and to anyone who's out there listening, thanks, just giving two young guys a chance on our thoughts on music, games, and or everything in between, basically. And that's about it, really. And thanks for listening.